It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for August 4th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, a Pokemon Presents is incoming, and Baldur's Gate 3 is impossibly popular. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamor Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing for Dregs Day?
I am doing fantastic, Jeff. I am excited for Dregs Day as always. We got the dregs. I've looked through this run of show, and let me tell you, there's some dregs in here.
Yes,
there's some
absolutely.
big dregs in here.
Yes,
but we're going to get the energy up, and we're going to have a nice time because, as you all know, we are yummy like a gummy bear.
We are yummy like a gummy bear. We made it to Friday. That means it's shut the fuck up Friday. It's flat fuck Friday. We're doing it all. We're making it all happen today.
Absolutely.
Listen, a good week here in Giant Bomb. I had a lot of fun. Glad to get back in the swing of things. We say it. There's too many video games, and the games are bigger than ever. I'm afraid of Baldur's Gate 3. That's where I'm at. I know you guys did that quick look. You guys did a good job on that. I believe there was some love in there.
Oh man, if you have not seen that quick look, is it up?
It's up.
I think it's up. Yeah,
it went up this morning. I think. Yes.
There is a moment where, oh my god, we were not expecting that.
I love the just like genitals off is like the thing we all have to like remember before we start working on this game, making content. Genitals off. But yes, that game seems like it's going to have a lot of magical moments that just can happen. You're like, oh my god, where did this come from? So yeah, but it's so massive.
It is overwhelming, yeah.
And it's coming at a time of year where there's a lot of other stuff happening. Like I am like side-eyeing my email every once in a while, like Armored Core 6, maybe something happening there, something going to happen there.
It's got to be soon. It's going to be soon.
Got to be soon. And then, not long after that, Starfield, like we're in the realm of possibility of like, Code Strike could show up at any moment. Who knows?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, lots of stuff, lots of big stuff happening. But I think I'm going to give Baldur's Gate 3 the college try. That's where I'm at with that, where I'm actually want to give it a real chance.
I think you have to. So this is an approach I took with Tears of the Kingdom, which I've fallen off of in a major way. I have spent a lot of time thinking about that game, and I've got some things to say about it, but I will not be saying it yet. I approached that game knowing that I will not beat it. I'll not finish it immediately. It's just a game I'm going to casually dip in and out of. I think for a lot of people, that is probably a good way to think of Baldur's Gate 3. Where you kind of like jump in, play a bit, have some fun, and then if you can come back for another session soon, great. If not, you just give it a little bit of time. Like what is based on a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Yes,
I think that if you're in a position where you can play, and I know you are, Jeff, on a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally, that is even better. So I played it on both, and it performs well.
Oh, okay, fantastic. This is literally the question I've been asking and or been looking to get answered. So to hear you tried it on both, okay. I think I'm going to end up going with the Steam Deck, even though the ROG Ally is more powerful. I think the Steam Deck, occasionally having the touch pads, I think will help.
Yeah, I've been playing it primarily on the ROG Ally. I will say the Steam Deck version, although it worked for me and it was running well, it is also quite finicky, and it seems like it's not as consistent. Like I've spoken to some people who are like, mine is not running particularly well. And I think DirectX 11, like when it gives you that option of DX11 or Vulkan, like Proton, DX11 is the way to go. Yes. Yeah, DX11, there's also like switching some Proton stuff, but I found the ROG Ally to be a little more consistent with it. And especially like I have been playing in like 1 or 2 hour stretches because of the physical makeup of that piece of hardware. It's less taxing on holding it for a really long time.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, if you have a Steam Deck, try it on both and see what happens. The issue I have with the ROG Ally is when I'm playing it over speakers, there's a lot of popping. So I have to put headphones in for that one.
Yeah, that's it seems like an ideal game. Well, obviously it looks great. Playing it on a beefy PC is wonderful. But then having those sessions where it's like, I am going to play this before bed, and just playing on the handheld would be ideal. So yeah, I'm gonna go for it.
Get yourself that Larian account, and Steam saves also work with it. It's just cross save. You can play it on that, pick it up on that. So it's been good for that.
That's what I'm gonna go for. All right, well, let's get into this mess. But before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start DREGGSDAY with a Pokemon Presents live stream is confirmed for next week. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC, the biggest Poke freak I know. A new Pokemon Presents stream is taking place next week. It's been confirmed. Pokemon Presents will return on August 8th at 2 p.m. UK, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. The Pokemon Company said on Friday. A teaser for the stream shows the Pokemon Presents logo before it is quickly replaced by a purple glitched version of the same logo. The broadcast will be 35 minutes long. It's currently unclear what will be shown as part of the event, but we're likely to hear more about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's upcoming DLC. What do you want from Pokemon these days, Sam?
Hey, you know what I want from Pokemon these days? Nothing.
Well, good news. It's probably going to be this DLC and then a whole lot of nothing.
The thing I want most is like, whoa, what happened there?
That was me. I banged my mic arm with this remote control to the TV because the kid really wants to play video games.
I think the thing that I want most is something that I probably won't get, which is like technical improvements.
Yep.
Like that's the thing that I want most out of Pokemon games on the Switch, especially, is like improve the performance, fix up some of the weird shit. Like it's gotten a little better as far as I know, but like still not particularly great. But I know the things that they're probably going to add is like content focus, which is, you know, new Pokemon, maybe like some new quest or some shit like that. I don't know. But I like the Pokemon games still, but I don't stick with them for extended periods of time. Like all these Pokemon, I look at them and I'm like, you're not as cool as the old ones.
I think I'm in the same thinking with Pokemon these days, where I don't really harbor any ill will against them or anything like that. And when I play them, I'm usually fine. I like the Legends a lot, but even that I didn't stick with. So yeah, I'm just not sticking with these games for very long. But going back to the thing of like wanting to have the technical improvements, that's something that early on the word was, or the implication from the Pokemon Company was, that's what they would do with Scarlet and Violet. I don't think I believe them anymore. I don't ever expect them to really do much to actually fix, quote unquote, Scarlet and Violet and give it like, a solid 30 frames per second across the board. I think the game is what it is. And they are, like you said, just going to make new content because that's the thing that the people that show up for these Pokemon Presents actually care about.
Let me ask you a question. This is going to sound a bit dumb, but I've got a terrible memory, so maybe you actually remember it. Has there been a game on Switch from Nintendo where they've like actively stayed on top of, and for let's say a long-term period, have updated it on a feature and technical perspective? Is there any game which they've done that with?
Yeah, not really. They've done, I don't think so. There's been, Splatoon's a good, but okay.
No, but like content. That's content. Like, is there any game where they're like, hey, we improved the performance on this one. Hey, we've tweaked it so you can now do this. We've added this feature to it now.
The kinds of things they have done are like add stuff slowly over time to their sports games as part of like their marketing plan in terms of, being like, okay, a year later, we have this new update out of nowhere that fixes a bunch of problems that people have with the game. There hasn't been much of that. Not really. So yeah, I think it's just not how Nintendo thinks about it, and the Pokemon.
No, that's what I was gonna say. I wonder, like Nintendo doesn't think about that. Pokemon Company is the same. I wonder if there's like a perception around constantly updating your games that is different from, Nintendo approach to everyone else, where it feels like if you're constantly updating your games, what are you saying about that game? I don't know. There's got to be some sort of like ethos or thinking behind why they don't take a more proactive approach,
right?
Yeah, resources and like also like a lot of their games launch fine, good. Pokemon is the one exception. Like even their most ridiculous games are somehow rock solid for the most part, with like Tears of the Kingdom being one example of that. That game should break constantly, but it seems to be largely rock solid.
And it's where it is where the frame rate drops, and it's like, oh, it would be nice if they could optimize this even further. It's clear they optimized it as much as they could, and it's just pushing up against the physical limitations of what the Switch can do, and so it's easy to forgive something like that. Pokemon being very difficult to forgive, although a lot of people have.
Before we I know the Pokemon fans are gonna be like, I can't believe they're talking about Pokemon. The only thing they're talking about is fucking resolutions and shit. Like, I don't want it, but I want to see what this means. I hope they do the thing where it's like, treat it like a major Fortnite event, where it's like, oh no, the glitches have taken over the Pokemon Island. All the Pokemon are corrupt. You have to go around and purge the Pokemon of the dark energy, because if you don't, this Pikachu will consume the entire world. Oh no. Well,
I like that. I would appreciate that. They should just lean into it hard.
They should have like one Pokemon go Gigantamax or Gigantamax, and it's the only one, and it's like Godzilla on the island, the way Bowser is in Mario DLC. He's like approaching. There's a giant Bowser-sized Pikachu coming, and you need to get a squad together before the giant Pikachu gets to the island, and you can only use that squad to fight it. And if you don't win, you get wiped, and you have to start all over again.
I love, and I like the idea of, because like Mario gets big and turns into the cat suit in that, and Bowser's Fury. Just a giant Pikachu shooting fat bolts of lightning, just thick bolts of lightning. That's what I want.
It's the fat Pikachu from the first gen of Pokemon, and it's come back, and it's like vengeance. Like, I was replaced, now I've returned.
My Fury has been building for decades now, and here I am to enact my revenge.
I went nuclear while you guys were not watching,
and then it turns into a Kojima game. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Love it.
All right. Baldur's Gate 3 is 2023's second biggest Steam launch so far. This comes from Jordan Midler of VGC. Newly released RPG Baldur's Gate 3 has enjoyed the second biggest Steam launch of 2023 so far. The game, which has been in early access for years, was officially released on Thursday on Steam, where it saw a peak concurrent players count of 427,000, according to independent Steam tracker SteamDB. And apparently, according to Lexi in chat, just crossed 500,000 concurrents right now. So it's like it must be popular across like Europe and Asia as well.
Oh yeah,
because I mean that's where people are playing games right now. So 500,000, very good. While impressive, it's still a long way off of 2023's biggest Steam release to date, Hogwarts Legacy, which saw a peak concurrent player count of 879,308 during its launch period. But 500,000 concurrent players for any game is amazing. It is a huge number. Most games come out and don't do that. That's just gigantic. Baldur's Gate 3 was developed by Larian, who previously helmed Path of Exile 2. Is that Divinity Original Sin 2? I don't think they weren't Path of Exile 2. What's going on over there, Jordan? Or was that them as well? A playable single player, multiplayer RPG. It's very popular. It's getting good reviews. You have played how many hours, Tam?
So I played, I believe it was 6 hours in the early access many years ago. And then basically I played 7 or 8 hours starting from scratch. And now I'm going to restart again because like I've got a little better understanding, and I realized the character I made is quite boring. It's a rogue character, which is the character I always make. And then once you start playing, you realize, oh man, there's so much going in this game, and I picked the most boring character. So my plan is to remake a character and make Patches the hyena from the Souls series.
Yeah.
Because there's a ability called Shove, which is you can just push shit off like sides of cliffs, which is a Patches classic. And there's also like I can't remember. It's like Dark. There's a version of the Dark Passenger as a personality trait, where every time you see someone, you have violent tendencies in your head.
Love that.
So I'm just gonna combine that into making Patches and playing Patches.
That's beautiful. I did select Astarion, who's like the first guy on the created characters that we made for you, and he's like an elf rogue or something like that. And I think what I'm going to do is we're trying to do this for the multiplayer mode for UPF today. I think I'll create a character for multiplayer and just kind of mess around with that instead. And that'll like kind of be my multiplayer character. But yes, this game is just more popular than I imagined it really could be. It is, and I think it goes to show that publishers don't know what they're doing. Because there's a world in which BioWare and Bethesda are still making RPGs like they used to, and aren't like leaning into, well, we got to make all our stuff online multiplayer shooters that you play with your friends. Clearly, there is a thirst for these kinds of games, and someone is feeding this audience and is getting rewarded for it with one of the biggest releases of 2023, a year filled with great games. People are showing up for this. Do you think this is a lesson that can be learned, or do you think it's a kind of a one-off special thing?
I don't think it's a one-off special thing. I also feel like I wish it was a lesson that could be learned. I want it to be a lesson that could be learned, but I think there's enough considerations, realistic considerations, that someone in a publisher's position would be able to argue against it, or like at least temper the kind of lesson that is being learned. Because is it a case of, is this a unique thing that happened, or is it a case of like the fact that these games don't exist as much anymore and a lot of publishers have moved away from them now means that this is as popular as it is? So if a lot of publishers see this now and they flock to bringing back major RPGs, then probably not going to hit the same levels of success as Baldur's Gate 3, because there'll be a dime a dozen by that point. Everyone will have one.
It could dilute it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Baldur's Gate, especially Baldur's Gate 3, it's a perfect intersection of a brand that has a lot of nostalgia, but also has a lot of name recognition, and also has a lot of kind of word of mouth, like people who will advocate for it and be like, oh, this is a series from the old days that is like really good and super heavy RPG stuff. Larian are really, really good about how they approach messaging around games, and also making games that are very, very enjoyable to play. Like between this and Divinity, like they have hit their stride. I feel like they are to like these kind of RPGs what FromSoft is to their own games. It's like they are like, they figured out their thing and they're just like exceptionally good at it. And then on top of that, it's just like the timing of it. Like it came out, at a time when people wanted it. There wasn't a lot of it, and also, people are just hanging about waiting for big games and stuff.
Think about like, what is this based on? Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons never been more popular than it is right now. So it's like all that stuff worked in its favor as well.
Yeah, people playing it during the pandemic as a way to kind of connect, and the popularity of stuff like Critical Role and that kind of stuff. D&D and the D&D movie, which is good. And like it could not be more popular. So it just so happens that fortuitously, like they released the most D&D game that has ever been made.
Yeah.
So I feel like the lesson to be learned is, yes, stop making shit that is generic and give people a meaty single player RPG and like this kind of stuff that they want. But at the same time, there's a very good chance that if you don't have something unique about your game, if you just make a generic RPG of this ilk, you probably will get left behind. And like if they like, I mean, BioWare is making a new
Dragon
Mass Effect and Dragon Age.
Yes, and that Dragon Age was, it's going to be a single-player RPG after they debated making a multiplayer one. So it's like they are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to provide a very, very fertile ground for games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect when it times. And also, like, I think it's maybe not a major portion of it, but like the ease of getting into PC gaming currently, because this is just PC, right? Like this is not a major console factored in. The ease of getting into PC gaming with a lot of like, buying computers that are pre-built but are very good, not like the old Dells where you buy it and you'll be like, you're trying to open a calculator, get fucked. Now it's like you buy a pre-build and it's like top of the line, it's a gaming PC. And then like playing on cloud stuff, and then also these handheld devices. Like it's more consumer friendly to get into PC, so it's playing a game like this is no longer has major barriers. This is the kind of thing that only PC nerds would be able to do previously.
Yeah, PC gaming is at a place where it's like, I think what happened is like that a lot of the console games since like the Xbox 360 era started coming to PC, And people are like, oh, I could just play both games with a controller on my PC. And then suddenly they're like, well, I'm on PC and there's all these other games here. I guess I'll try them. And then a computer ass RPG comes out and it's like, oh, yeah, of course I'll try this. There's nothing scary about trying Baldur's Gate 3. I think you're right. Those barriers have come down. I think Minto in chat also points out kind of what I was thinking, where it's like those D&D podcasts. I listen to a handful of them, or I have in the past. I don't listen to many anymore, but I have in the past. And I'm like, I've never really played Dungeons and Dragons. This feels like a safe, confined, well-polished way for me to get a similar experience without having to do the effort of getting a bunch of people together to like kind of teach me how to have fun playing D&D. So I think a lot of people might be feeling that as well. The other side of this is early access. This game was in early access for what, 3 years? That is, to me, early access has always obviously been a good thing. I think after this and after Hades, I hope more and more studios and even big publishers consider early access. Just refine your game over years, sell it to people during that time, and then when you go to 1.0, you can still have this big launch day, as is evidenced by this game right here. The people weren't like, oh, I played it in early access. I don't know. I'm not going to check it out. Like everyone just jumped in still.
Yeah, the caveat I have that from a personal perspective is like there's two types of games that come out. The games, especially on early access, where there's early access games that feel like genuine and there's early access that feel exploitative. Yeah. Where it's like some games, like the reason this worked was because that original version, the early access version that they put out was a banger. Like you could play, it wasn't complete, but you played it and you were like, oh, this is really good. Yeah. It's like already polished and I can see what they're going for and they're going to carry on working. Same with Hades. Like Hades was like the core game that they released in early access.
Minecraft, Kerbal
Dead
Space
Cells
Program.
Were very good. There's a whole like gluttony of early access games that are like, we put this dog shit together and now help us like make it better. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that.
And I think yes, if the answer there is your game still has to be good, yeah, absolutely, that is still going to be key. But it's like I can see a world, and this came up on Game Master Sides last night. So there's someone in the chat mentioned this, like that Knights of the Old Republic game that seems like it might be in development hell as it got moved from developer to developer over under the Embracer Group label over there. Imagine if they just put that in early access for a couple of years while they tried to figure out some of that stuff. Like we already know that game has some pretty decent mechanics underneath everything, and it's like you don't have to worry about story spoilers because we've all played the story before. Everyone's aware of them, or if you want to avoid them, just continue avoiding them. I think putting something out like that, give it a couple of years to get it refined, get it to a point where it is like this. Please just do that. I think it's the right answer for a lot of games.
I mean, yeah, I think that would be great, but I think convincing license holders and IP holders that early access is a valuable thing is very different because it's like, oh, we're going to put out this game, it's not going to be done, but we're going to work on it, and people are going to don't worry about people saying this sucks because that's the point. And then if you're in charge of Star Wars IP, you're not doing that. You're like, no, I don't want that.
I think it's probably something that gets picked up by like the Warhammer IP holders. Like we'll be like, sure,
exactly.
We'll do that. But Star Wars, Baldur's Gate 3, I think should prove to a lot of people who were hesitant before that it can work. I think you're still right. Disney's going to be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. We're not doing that. All right, let's keep going here. Baldur's Gate 3 devs want to stay independent because it keeps it more creative. This comes from George Yang at GameSpot. Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian Studios wants to stay independent, and its founders have no plans to sell the studio anytime soon. In an interview with Bloomberg, Larian Studios founder Swin Vink said the prospect of being acquired by a large company was flattering. Here's the quote. The strength of this company is that I'm very invested in the gameplay, and I also make the ultimate decisions. We can do things in service of the games we're making. This was a response to a rumored list on social media detailing which studios Microsoft was allegedly considering acquiring. Among the list were Larian Studios and Sega, as well as a bunch of others. Microsoft is also busy trying to finalize Activision Blizzard, all that stuff. This sounds right, because if you are having your like breakout moment, like you mentioned From Software, I think that's a very good analog for Larian Studios. Like Larian Studios working in their wheelhouse, completely dominating the space, redefining what that looks like, and then having a huge breakout success after several very successful games before this. But this is a breakout success. They can kind of write their own checks. They can write their own future. They could do what they want. They're probably not going to give that up, right?
No, I mean, also like it's worth pointing out that Microsoft, that list of studios that Microsoft was looking to acquire had every studio on it.
Yes, it did.
I'm pretty sure I was on that list. They were
Yes.
trying to acquire me at some point. Like,
We're just like,
like,
that's just normal. I saw that. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like this is the smart play, but it's also a play that can only be made by a company that is successful.
Yes.
Like
it has a vision.
Yeah, it has a vision, and they've got a bunch of extremely successful games behind them. I don't want to oversell how the impact of that, because they are also like, they are still a relatively small team compared to the likes of Microsoft, EA, that kind of stuff. But they have put a lot of time and effort into becoming the developer that they are, which is a relatively small team that is punching so above its weight that it's wild. And I feel like if you've done the work to get to that point, you want to preserve the working environment, the ethos, the workflows, the kind of thing that you got going, the magic that you have created to get to that point, instead of like allowing a big company to come in and just like start sticking their fingers in and potentially ruin the source. These days, most big companies, especially Microsoft, they have an approach which is like, we're not going to touch you, we'll just give you money, which is a better scenario than previously. But I think for a studio like Larian, which is, I mean, now at the top of their game, it makes perfect sense to just stay independent, let themselves call the shots. Sven, we've interviewed him a bunch of times on GameSpot, and he does not feel like one of those, executives that is just like in an ivory tower looking down at his developers
and looking
being
for
like,
a big
do
exit,
this.
right? Like,
no.
He's looking at making the games.
Yeah, he is in the thick of it. He wants to say in some stuff, like, he understands, like, he talks to his other developers, and he seems very, very well adjusted for the leader of a studio, which is rare these days. So I think everyone at that team, unless we're like, who knows what could be happening behind closed doors, but like, I think everyone on that team would also probably agree that, like, we've got a good thing going. Let's not break up the band just yet. Let's not introduce any new singers or bass players to this. Like, let's just keep how we're going for now. And I think that's the right move for them.
I think so too. Although if I am like a company like Microsoft, it's like, man, I could go get Larian and make them make a Fallout game. That would be real nice. But yeah, I think Larian's gonna be doing their own thing for at least a couple more games. Like, they'll probably sell to someone eventually. Eventually that juice runs out, and you're like, we'll sell them. That way we have that financial security, and we'll keep making games the way we were before. But I don't expect that to happen until at least, they'll do a Divinity Original Sin 3. They'll probably they're definitely going to do a follow-up to Baldur's Gate. There's just no way after this game.
That's my major question now. Like, do they continue with, I was going to say their own IP, but like the games that they want to make and put their own stamp on? Or do they, because right now, there's every IP holder is looking at them and being like, we need them to make up one of our games. Like, do we have a situation where Marvel comes knocking and says like, hey, we'd love you to make the next Guardians of the Galaxy game or whatever, or like, we'd love you to make a Doctor Strange game, RPG, could you do that? Is that something they do, or are they like, no, we like this extremely nerdy RPG shit, like, we're going to stick to this? Yep. Because that's the kind of half step between like having creative vision and being acquired by someone else, working with a licensed IP holder, where you have some of that creative vision, but you also have this, IP holder who's like, do it this way because we need it this way. That would be interesting. This is like a fork in a road that a lot of major developers reach at some point. Like, I think of Platinum, when like they made banging games, and eventually they were like, we got to churn out some of these straight ass licensed games for a while.
Yep, you're, it's like that fork in the road is real. I'm looking forward to seeing how the studio handles it. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy Baldur's Gate 3 and not be like, hey, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? Which is I'm always guilty of. I'm always thinking about that. All right. 1 billion Switch games have been sold. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. As part of Nintendo's latest financial briefing, the company updated its list of the top-selling Switch games of all time, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe continues to reign supreme. Nintendo also confirmed that more than 1 billion Switch games have now been sold since the system arrived in 2017. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, of course, the top-selling game. There's a whole bunch of top-selling games. This is the first Nintendo system to surpass more than 1 billion games sold, I believe. Yes, the Nintendo DS had 948.76 million games sold for it, and the Wii had 921.85 million, and those were the closest. And for, Nintendo, though that was great, that was really good. Getting across the billion was difficult for them because they've not always, but for most of the recent consoles have lacked Call of Duty, games like Battlefield, a lot of the big first-person shooters that sell a ton, and the annual sports games that also sell a ton don't always come to their systems. And that's also been true for the Switch, and yet the Switch just powering across the billion behind the strength of obviously Mario Kart 8, but like a game like Tears of the Kingdom coming out and selling nearly 19 million copies in two months. Like that, they are just mostly still doing it on the strength of their own games, and then a ton of very, very popular indie games and a handful of third-party support. But that's a barrier they've never gotten across before. So the Switch really kind of does feel like their most successful system ever in a lot of ways.
Perfect time for rumors of a successor to appear.
Yeah. I mean, Switch 2, those rumors keep bubbling up. Right now, the talk is 8-inch screen sounds like something that's being discussed, and 512 gigabytes of internal storage. And it's like, that sounds about right. This thing is almost certainly going to have Switch in the name, right? Like,
yeah, it has to. But then I don't know. Like the Wii U had Wii in the name.
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, Super Nintendo was the Super NES, and
and
Game
I would
Boy
love
Advance
it if they did. If they did Super Switch, that would be so. I would love that, but I feel like in this day and age, it's a marketing nightmare. But I don't. It all have Switch in the name. I wouldn't be surprised if they just went Switch 2. Like honestly, like Nintendo doesn't traditionally do the number in the name of a piece of hardware. But if anything called for it, it would probably be the game or the platform that has a billion games sold, just to make sure that people know it's the successor, it's a better one. Or the new Switch, the Apple style, or Switch 2, the better Switch, that kind of thing.
I think it's a difficult one, but I think after the Wii U was that weird thing where it's like the people don't really understand it. I think calling it Switch 2, like you said, does make a lot of sense.
What if they do combination Wii Switch?
There it is. Wii Switch. Yeah, that's it's just a lifestyle, everybody. That's how we're doing it. Okay, let's move along here. Tam, every time I feel like you're on the show, something happens with Kojima. And I'm like, do you manifest this?
He is my boy. He's my spirit animal. He knows that DREGGSDAY is coming. He's like, let me give my homie something. Let me give him something.
Hideo Kojima explains why he rewrote Death Stranding 2 from scratch after the pandemic. This comes from...
I wanted to.
Yeah,
I did because I wanted to, because I'm Hideo Kojima. I do shit, okay? This
is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Hideo Kojima has explained that he had to completely rewrite Death Stranding 2 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. After the first trailer for the game was shown at the Game Awards 2022, Kojima spoke on stage and revealed that he had to rewrite the game's story, but was vague as to the reasons for this. I had the story written before the pandemic, but after experiencing the pandemic, I just rewrote the whole story from scratch, he said at the time. I also didn't want to predict more of the future, so I rewrote it. Now in an interview with Japanese entertainment news sites, Natalie, I guess that's the name of the site, Kojima gives more information on the impact of the pandemic that the pandemic had on the interpretation of the story. Before the pandemic, I'd actually already conceived the narrative for Death Stranding 2, Kojima said. Wait, what? Asked the interviewer. Japanese pop star Nachi. Oh, Japan, you guys are...
What's going on in Japan,
I don't know. Nachi, pop star, writing for Natalie. But Death Stranding came out right on the brink of COVID-19. I was under the impression that Death Stranding 2's plot was developed with the pandemic in mind. Not exactly, Kojima replied. However, when the pandemic did strike, it led us to restructure the entire script. In Death Stranding, we championed the act of connection. But as the pandemic took hold, digital connections like remote work gained prominence. I also realized that digital connections alone couldn't satisfy human needs. We are inherently explorers. Oh, Kojima. He added, right now we're dealing with seclusion and division, and the world is undergoing significant transformations. We can't rewind to our pre-pandemic reality, so we've had to reassess the conception of connection. In Death Stranding 2, the interpretation of strand evolves. You'll notice at the end of the teaser trailer, a message says that, should we have connected? That's the crux of what we're trying to articulate in the sequel. I can already imagine how that manifests. here's what Kojima does. He just like researches a bunch of stuff and reads a lot and watches movies all the time.
Yeah.
And then those ideas get manifested in his games and he expresses them. And he's a good sponge for that stuff.
He is the most empowered Wikipedia reader in the world.
Exactly.
And also, if you think about it, he's Alan Wake. Everything he writes comes to pass. This man is Alan Wake.
I think a lot of that is just like, he reads the Wikipedia articles that I think make his hair stand on edge on his arms. And the reason it does that is because he could tell, like, oh, we are moving in this direction, and that's true. And then he puts it in his game, and it does come true. Because I think he's got a good beat on that stuff. Now, of course, his writing's also completely absurd, but that just actually makes it fun. I think it makes him more like Paul Verhoeven, right? Where it's like Paul Verhoeven is not trying to make it grounded down to earth movies, but everything he says is true and is going to come true.
Yeah, this is the thing that I always like. I enjoy about Kojima's writing, and people are like, "Oh, it's so bad. Why do you do it?" It's like, do you want the idea of forming connection to be told in the most boring way that everyone does all the time?
Yep.
Or do you want some batshit wild circumstances and context to tell you this story that eventually becomes about connecting? That's what I want. The second one. I don't need to be like, oh, you should meet someone on in a meet cute in a cafe again, and like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, I want big whale and oil, and by the end of it, I want to be like learning the lesson, and somehow it's like that's what I want from him.
I want to be thinking about like, what does this have to do with Moby Dick? And I'm like, oh, when I start thinking about it, like, oh shit, this does make sense now. That's what I want, absolutely. And
the thing is, like, consistently, you will never play a story the way Kojima and his team, because a number of writers work on it, tell a story. Like it or not, that's a different thing. But when you leave, you definitely will say, I've never had a story told to me like that. It's ridiculous.
I never played Metal Gear Solid 2, and I think it's time.
Dude, Metal Gear Solid 2 is so good. Yes, I still play it every now and then. By the time you reach the end, you're going to be like, what is going on? And how was this game made all the way back then?
Yep. I think I got to make that happen. A Death Stranding movie is currently in the works. Kojima recently said he'll be heavily involved in its production, but won't be in the director's chair. God damn it. I want to see that. I want to see him direct a movie so bad. But this is obviously where he was always going, where it's like, I have my own studio, making our own IP. We are going to try to make movies based on that stuff as well. He said that from the beginning with this new
Death Stranding was supposed to have like an anime adaptation. He's like, I want to make action figures. I want to make it all. Like he was very clear about wanting to merchandise and franchise a lot of his stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
And adapt it.
All right, I'm going to jump ahead here to 2 hours of Assassin's Creed Jade footage have leaked online. This is from Jordan Midler at BGC. Over 2 hours of footage from Assassin's Creed Jade has appeared online. The footage, which was briefly on YouTube before it being taken down, is now circulating online, and it shows large portions of the mobile-only Assassin's Creed adventure. Tam, have you seen this? Have you checked this out at all?
No, I missed it. Did it?
I'll put it up on the thing right now. It does just straight up look like an Assassin's Creed. I'm like, I guess that's what they always said it would be, but it's just like kind of surprising to me. Like, oh yeah, this actually looks better than even like an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. Kind of looks about equivalent to like early PS4 games. Yes, the footage also includes a surprising cameo from Cassandra, the female lead from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Jade, which is currently in beta testing, is a free-to-play game set to be published by Tencent's Level Infinite division after Ubisoft announced a major strategic partnership with the Chinese company last year. The game promises to offer a huge open world to explore, where they're quoted as saying, explore the path of Jia in Assassin's Creed codenamed Jade, set in the 3rd century BC during the time of one of the first unified dynasties in China. It's I think this is impressive. Tam, I don't think I'll ever play this.
I'll play it because I, for my sins, have a long history with Assassin's Creed. I've enjoyed many entries in that franchise. I feel like they've become bloated to the point of being frustrating, which is why I'm excited for Mirage in a big way. I still dabble in all the Assassin's Creed. I'll play a little bit just to see what it is, and if it's one of those, this is an open world where we've got way too much stuff to do, and none of it is mostly good. So play that. If it's one of those, I'm out. If it's something a little more focused, I'm definitely in. I hope this is a little more focused, in which case I would enjoy that way more. But we'll see.
Well, let me ask then, as someone who has a history of sin with Assassin's Creed, how does this make sense as a free to play game? Like, can you imagine how that would work?
That is the tricky part of it. So the free to play part of it, the moment they said free to play, I was like, oh god, there we go. There is a world where they create a standard Assassin's Creed game in the model of one of the newer ones, which is basically an RPG focused thing where everyone's got levels, there's weapons, and they have different effects and that kind of stuff, and then monetize the crap out of like charms and weapons and outfits and upgrade shortcuts and etc. etc. I feel like that might have some limitedness, given that if it's a traditional Assassin's Creed game, it will end up you run out of the story, and the only way that is long-term viable is if you have a repeatable gameplay experience.
Right.
So it must mean that this is mission-based or some sort of rogue element to it, but that isn't immediately evident in the footage or anything that we've said so far. I think
looking at it, it looks just like Assassin's Creed, right? It just looks like an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the gameplay you could be seeing here could be like a roguelike style thing where if this lad dies or this person dies, it's a fresh start and a different world and that kind of thing. Or it could just be this is one of many missions that you do repeatedly as part of dailies or whatever it may be. But you can see in this footage, and for people who aren't watching, they can just imagine something like Odyssey or Origins, which is open world and every enemy's got a number over their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, every enemy's got a number over their head, and your damage numbers are coming out of it, which is the thing that I don't want in Assassin's Creed games. But there's various monetization routes in that framework of game design.
Yeah, I wonder if it's they'll have a feature like Brotherhood, where you're sending off your fellow Assassin's Creed assassin members off to do missions. I could see that being that's going to take a day, but if you want to speed it up, you could just pay to speed it up. That's the kind of thing that would fit with Assassin's Creed.
And also, we're building up the Assassin's Brotherhood in China, and you can take a companion with you on a mission, and then it just turns into Genshin Impact gacha style thing where recruit. It's here's a recruit. You've pulled Cassandra. Good for you. Cassandra will now give you some advice on how to build the Assassin's Brotherhood here because she's done it in ancient Greece or whatever it may be.
You're right. I think it's going to be Genshin. You're right. It's probably going to be a lot of that. Okay, now that starts to make sense. I'm I've always been curious about this one. I think it's cool to see it. Even if it's great, I just don't enjoy. I hate seeing my battery drain on my phone, and games just destroy your battery. So it's I usually don't play games on my phone, but hey, if this is something that people end up liking, great. Happy for you. One of the best shmups of all time is finally coming to PC. This is from Stephen T. Wright at GameSpot. If you're a fan of shoot 'em up shmups, let me go back there. If you're a fan of shoot 'em up shmup games, you're probably familiar with Radiant Silvergun, developed by legendary studio Treasure. The game is famous for its high difficulty, its color-based scoring system, and for the fact that it was only available on the Sega Saturn for many years, where it was very, very expensive after a while. As its Steam page reveals, Radiant Silvergun is coming to PC soon, though the page doesn't have a firm release date. The trailer that we do have, which I'll show here in a second, does say August 18th. That would be very, very soon. Were you ever a Radiant Silvergun fan, Treasure fan, shoot 'em up fan?
I was an Ikaruga guy.
I like Ikaruga a lot too.
Yeah. But Radiant Silvergun, I think I did not play mainly because of the restrictions that you mentioned there. Yeah. It was on Saturn and prohibitively expensive to get that console or that game afterwards. And I just did not do the emulation part of it. I guess I could have at some point.
I think it came out somewhere. I think, is it on Switch now? I want to say. I can't remember.
Maybe.
It came out somewhere recently, and I've been meaning to get it. And I'm like, well, now I'll just get it on Steam.
Yeah, I've not played a shmup in a really long time, unless you bend the rules of what a shmup is and think of, like Cuphead as a shmup or something like that, which it can be at times. It has like those kind of gameplay sections. But
what is it? Nier Automata has some shmup levels and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I've not played a honest to God shmup in a really long time. And generally I didn't really play a lot of them. I played like Ikaruga was the main one that I just repeatedly played over and over again. And if you count Res as a shmup, that might be one as well. But yeah, it's a genre that I would love to get more into, but I think I have a limited interest in like the narrative-less shmups. So it'd have to have like a story or have some sort of importance in the history of games or the genre for me to be super into it, which Radian Silvergun definitely has.
That's the like beat 'em ups have had a moment over the last couple of years, and it's like they've like figured out like, well, they came from the arcades, and obviously there was Streets of Rage 2 and the Streets of Rage series, which was for consoles. But it was mostly coming from the arcade, and it had a lot of arcade sensibilities, and that caused it to sort of stagnate at a time, and then it went away for a long time. And now the genre is back in a big way, as a lot of other developers are like, no, we can figure out how to make this work as like a replayable game that has value as a purchase instead of as an arcade game. And it's like, I wonder if the same thing could happen with shmups. And like, yeah, just kind of building a narrative or something like that. I think maybe that's a good start. Honestly, I'll let the professionals handle it, but I hope that they can figure it out. But I am going to check out Radiant Silvergun on Steam. I'm going to play it because, like you said, I played a lot of Ikaruga. I know this is the other really big one from Treasure in terms of shoot 'em up. So yeah, I'll check this out.
I hope it's Radiant Silver fun.
Lego Animal Crossing sets are coming next year, Lego Insider claims. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. The next big video game series to get the Lego toy treatment may be Animal Crossing, according to new reports. The claim was originally posted on Instagram by Lego leaker Extra Bricks Lego Go. And it was then backed up by YouTuber Brick Clicker. I'll Brick Clicker. I'll click your bricks. It relates to 5 sets which have been discovered on Brick Merge, a site which runs a bot that discovers new Lego sets as soon as they're listed. Although Brick Merge simply lists sets by their product numbers, which run from 77046 to blah, 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 and provides no further information, it's since been claimed by leakers such as Extra Bricks Lego Go that they're Animal Crossing sets, and that they're going to go for $15, $20, $30, $40, and $75 respectively, these 5 sets.
Brick Merge sounds like the worst, like, blockchain shitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, it is the worst
Invest
one.
in Brick Merge, yeah. It's also claimed that the sets will be released in March 2024, and that the character minifigs will have special molded heads like the Lego Sonic and Sega and Simpsons minifigs instead of standard Lego heads. This makes sense. I can see how they do this, where it's like, what is something that has a broad appeal that we can turn into Lego?
It's also what is something built around obsessing over collecting characters and bringing them to your island, and it is this IP. Like, this is the number one want to make friends, want them on my island IP.
I'm sorry, I just saw Lexi in chat said a blockchain company invited me onto a yacht today. That's got to be like,
I assume that you're on the yacht now. Is that right?
Well, it's got to be like a timeshare thing, right? Where they get you on the yacht, and then you have to like sit in a room with a projector while they do a presentation, right, before you can have any fun.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of their brow? And then before you know it, you're in rapture.
And here's why we're all investing in GameStop. Yeah, I think Animal Crossing Lego sets, that's cool. I want Zelda and stuff. I want Animal Crossing too, don't get me wrong, but I hope they keep at this so that we kind of get to the point where we have everything. One
day they're going to announce the Pokemon one, and it's going to be over for these hoes. Like, everyone's going to be on that. Like, it's going to be, that's the big red button, Pokemon Lego, where it's just going to, it's like unlimited and unstoppable.
Yeah, just that big Pikachu set, it's going to be $850, and people they're going to sell it instantly. Absolutely right. Japanese charts for the physical game sales last week. Pikmin 4 maintained its dominance as Switch surpasses 30 million units sold. This is from Ollie Reynolds at Nintendo Life. This week's Japanese charts are in courtesy of Famitsu, and it's Nintendo's own Pikmin 4 out in the lead again with an additional 115,697 physical units sold. So that doesn't include digital. So far, Pikmin 4 has sold 500,000 copies in Japan alone. And again, that's physical only. So this is you got to add another 250,000 at least for digital sales in Japan for that, and then that's already almost 1 million in one country for Pikmin 4. That's just bonkers success for that franchise, a series that I don't think has sold more than 3 million copies before. Clearly it's going to do that now. Elsewhere, there's some newcomers in terms of game releases. Natsuman, a 20th Century Summer Vacation, coming in at number 2. Cry Machina for Switch and PS5 at positions 6 and 10 respectively. The Western launch of Cry Machina will follow on October 24th. And Disney Illusion Island debuted at number 7 with a total of 7,172 copies sold. And speaking of hardware, the Switch OLED was on top. PlayStation 5 was right behind that. But overall, the big news here is Switch is at 30 million consoles sold in Japan alone. Console sales for Switch in Japan have sped up, actually. They're up 60%, like 66% year over year, which is massive. And a lot of that comes down to Zelda, obviously, but it's not just Zelda. But yeah, the Switch, more successful than ever in Japan. And then, of course, like you said, it's like a perfect time to launch Switch 2, right? It's weird.
Yep.
This is why Nintendo keeps like pushing it off, and kind of lackadaisically is going to be like, no, we'll just launch the follow-up late next year. We're in no rush. All right. You know what? This last story, Linux surpasses Mac among Steam gamers. This is just about, hey, Steam Deck is actually making a dent on that because that runs Linux. So kind of interesting, I thought, but not too surprising either, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to say to Linux users.
Yeah, you see one in the street,
to Mac
spit
users.
at their feet. Yeah.
No, I just like nod my head.
Okay.
I respect you. I fear you.
Stay out of my home.
I don't approve of your lifestyle for myself. Enjoy your Linuxing over there.
They will.
Safe distance from me.
They definitely will enjoy it.
Mac users, though, absolutely pulling their pants down and in public and running away and then like giving them swirlies and that kind of stuff.
And they don't even know what's happening. They're completely oblivious.
Wild.
All right, I got a poll question from yesterday. Let's see here. Do you resent Shadow the Hedgehog? So, yes or no? I mean, I'm going to refresh this real quick because I think there were some more votes. Yeah, there we go. 500 votes. 35% of you resent Shadow the Hedgehog. Only 65% of you do not. Which is, hey, fair enough. I'm not going to kink shame. You gotta do what you gotta do. This came from the story yesterday where they said at Sega they're not gonna put Shadow the Hedgehog into like the classic style games because he's only in new Sonic games. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but all right, fair enough.
I love that the framing of this looks like it's a information that has been published by me at the bottom.
All right.
Yeah, the whole Imagine Sonic but edgy and has guns. I don't know where that came from, but it's had quite a divisive impact on the Sonic fandom.
Yeah, and he's way more popular than I ever thought he would be. Because to me, it's like, well, that's just silly, but kids love him. Kids love Shadow. Yeah. So yeah. We have a new poll question we're going to put up on the YouTube channel. It's at youtube.com/giantbomb/community. Just hit the community tab. You can find it there. But before we talk about that, Tam, what do we have happening? What do you got going on next week? Whatever. Tell people about what's going on.
Oh, man. There's a new Jeff's out. UPF is happening today. Are you doing Baldur's Gate?
And Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is the plan. There's a chance it could be Fortnite. But I think we're going to do Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. Jan's getting set up for that. So that should be fun. We're going to do it multiplayer is the idea.
Yeah. So that's the rest of this week, which is today, I guess. Next week, usual stuff. Bombcast will have... I don't know what else I thought. It's weird because like we're talking about a lot of things and I can't remember what the timeline on some of them is and whether we talk publicly about them, but let's just say people should be excited because there's a lot of cool things coming. Yes. We're working on making sure that there are cool things coming, and a lot of that takes a lot of time and effort to line the ducks up to get that done properly, but everyone will be treated to a variety of fun, new and existing content.
Yep, it's we're working on the timeline, and Tam's right. It takes some time, but it's we found ourselves in a position where we can like reset some stuff and get going again, and it's very exciting. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. Well, I was also going to say Evo's this weekend, so
Yes.
that's going to be a big deal. Maybe we'll try and do something with that next week.
Turbo Sean is competing again. He might go against Fudo, so try to watch out for
Yeah,
that.
he's going against Fudo, and good luck. Jean-Luc is also competing. I don't think he's playing Fudo, though.
Sean thought it was funny because he's like, "What people who don't know fighting games are like, well, maybe you'll win." And then you told someone who does know fighting games, "I'm fighting Fudo," and Tam's like, "Ha ha, you're fucked. You're
This
cooked."
guy is a clinical scientist of a fighting game player. He has no time for nonsense. He's just like decimates you and moves on with his life.
I love it, and good luck to Jean-Luc as well. All right. The one thing I'll mention is on Monday, I'm planning to do a Mortal Kombat stream where I'm going to start playing through the stories of 9, 10, and 11 in preparation for Mortal Kombat 1. People come hang out with me, but I'll be doing that after Game Mess mornings, a little bit after Game Mess mornings. We have a meeting, but after that, in the afternoon on Monday. So look out for that. Yes, so the new poll, let's take a look here. I am going to ask you, are you checking out Baldur's Gate 3? Yes, I love the previous Baldur's Gates. Yes, I am a D&D fan. Yes, I want to romance a bear. And no. Those are your options. You can get that, again, on the YouTube community page. Vote for that, and we'll discuss it on Monday on giantbomb.com. Tam, thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me today about video games. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me. I love doing the show. I miss it when I can't, and I'm excited to be back next week, hopefully barring any catastrophic changes in my life or schedule.
We love having you here. I love having you here. The audience, love having you. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. All right, we've done it. We're hot and mic'd still. Let's take a look on rating. Tam, if you got anything